So it's 1:05. Let's just go ahead and get started. I am Camilla Hill. I am one of the WSP Central Staff members. My title is the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator. And we are so excited for you all to be here and see this first ever WVEDs. We are so grateful for both Delia and Mary who have agreed to come and talk, and I am thrilled that we've got some people here. This was just kind of a pie in the sky idea that we had a while ago, and it's really exciting to see it come to fruition. Our idea is that these are going to be just kind of intimate conversations where female identified and femme of center veterans are able to kind of be in community with one another, are able to share things that are relevant in their lives, maybe things that are really pressing for them, and share some of their experiences, making sure that they can relate to other people. I think a big part of COVID is this feeling of isolation and feeling alone. And so I really want us to continue to develop community, even when we're not physically with one another. We have a WVEDs community Facebook page that we are hoping will be a place where folks can kind of chat with one another and hang out with one another after they meet each other on these WVEDs conversations. So if you are interested, please join us there. I think that those are all of our kind of, oh, well, one other thing, we are recording this webinar and we are going to be sharing it on our Facebook page, and we are going to stop the recording at the Q&A section. So if you are wanting to ask a question, but you don't want your question to be broadcast, that's totally fine. We are definitely going to stop the recording after the panelists are done speaking with their portion of it. Some of the topics that we have are going to be a little bit more sensitive in nature, and we are not going to be sending those out to everybody. But we thought that this would be a good idea so that folks could get a taste of what these conversations are going to look like. We are having to individually unmute you all. So if somebody wants to ask a question verbally, that's great. Just put in the chat, please unmute me, and we will go ahead and do that. I think that that's everything. So Delia and Mary, it's all yours.
All right, thank you so much. Oh,
I'm gonna say, Mary, I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen and then you can go ahead.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. All right, I guess you can go to the next slide there. Awesome. So I just want to say thank you all, like she said, for coming. Apologies, I have some feedback, so I just need to do something. I knew I was going to be embarrassing. Can everyone hear me? Okay. All right. So my name is Mary Swanson, and again, thank you all for coming to the Warrior Scholar Project's first Women Veteran Empowerment Dialogue. Sorry for the hiccup there in the beginning. I attended Warrior Scholar Project's cohort at Texas A&M in 2019. And I want to preface with my pronouns are she, her, hers, and that this story that I'm sharing today is really just my own personal experience. And so, of course, you know, there are so many ways to do things, and by no means is this the only way. And so I just want to make sure that everyone understands that this is really my story and everyone has their own unique story. And I'm so grateful for WSP to give me this opportunity. But yeah, I just want people to understand this isn't the only way. Yeah. Next slide. Oh wait, actually, and so on this picture here, I just wanted to also say that I served 8 years in the United States Marine Corps, and I thought to start with a funny picture because, you know, nothing like a little self-deprecating humor to get everyone's nerves kind of loose. And so here in the middle, in the back, I would say if you could count the heads that are facing forward, the third face that's facing forward is me in those portholes at boot camp. And to be completely honest, I started with this picture also because the rest of my pictures are all very like, hello, I am doing my job. And I want to say that this first picture really represents how I feel most of the time. So feel free to zoom in on that picture when you think that Mary Swanson has it all together. That is how I feel in real life. Okay. Next slide. All right. So this slide here, these are my two children, Jackson and Mackenzie. And when I joined the Marine, or when I got out of the Marine Corps in 2017, one of my biggest sort of new things to navigate as a transitional veteran, for those of you who are post 9/11, you know, it's very new for me. I'm a post 9/11 transitional student veteran, and I had two kids and went through a divorce, and so there were a lot of things that sort of were challenges for me to be a student veteran and to get to where I wanted to be. I needed to make sure that my family, like, they came first. And so just to back up really quickly, I currently attend university at the University of Southern Maine. I am a senior studying psychology and minor in political science. I have goals to become a lawyer, and I have specific goals in constitutional law and how that affects families in the United States. And the reason why I can put that phrase together the way I did is because actually another woman empowered me who's sitting in this panel, Dilia, and linked me up with a few other women who are already lawyers. Yeah, so I had an informational interview with a lawyer who already graduated from Columbia, and she said, well, give me your pitch. Like, what do you want to do in life? And so I told her, and she was like, you're interested in constitutional law and how that affects families in the United States. And I would have never gotten to that quickly without the strong women in my life. And to be honest, like, that was really like Delia, really, that was like one of the big moments in my life where you realize, like, Harvard was right when they did that study that said women who empower women, they are more successful, because there are circles, and not all men are bad. I'm not a man hater. I have a son and I love him to death. But there are circles where we're not accepted. And if we as women aren't empowering each other and pulling each other into those circles, we're still not going to be in those circles. But back to, so that's me and where I want to go and my goals. And the biggest thing for me as a mom, when I first got out of the Marine Corps, it was very hard because I got divorced and I went from dual income in the Marine Corps. My ex-husband is a Marine as well. You know, we didn't want for anything. And now I'm in this new brave world of a single mom, and I have two kids, and I'm still going to school. And, you know, the GI Bill is a great benefit, and being a student veteran is a tremendous gift. And I think we all need to use that wisely. But yeah, so my biggest challenge, number one, and I say challenge not because, you know, it's not a bad thing. I love my kids. But I really focused a lot on, like, okay, I need to get a job when I get out, and I need to make sure I'm working, and, you know, like, okay, let's get them into a daycare. But daycares were not like they are on base, you know, like you have to seek it out on your own, just like everything. And my son had some challenges, and I really needed to start thinking about, okay, not only did I have to research on my own, like, specific daycares and how am I going to make sure that he's being taken care of socially and mentally, like health-wise. But there aren't like resources like that for people. Like, I know it sounds kind of strange, but like, as a veteran community, I was able to find resources to help my son because I have a veteran friend who is a social worker, and he works with behavioral health specialists. And he said, Mary, you need to go to this office and sign up for this program. again, I would have never had that information had I not had like network and connections. And so I think that's another like real solid reason to make sure, like, you know, back to the empowerment part, is making sure that when you get these resources that you also, you know, provide them to other veterans around you, because I wouldn't be here without those people. And so that was a huge struggle for me. I got my son and my daughter, you know, in the programs that they needed to be in. But the thing is, it took some, you know, it took some steps. And like I said, I got those resources, and yeah, so that was one of my 5 I have listed here. I apologize. Sometimes I get a little scatterbrained, but I have 5 top sort of strategies. And if I'm focusing on those strategies, these things sort of help me to stay grounded and just focused on my goals. And they're really helpful for me. And like they said, at the end, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything, obviously. You could go to the next slide. All right. All right. So the second thing was income. For each of my slides, I will say I'm a storyteller. It's all about stories with me. So for income, like I said, I was dual income in the military and, you know, wanting for nothing. I got out, transitioned, and I realized that in the veteran community, like, yes, we are veterans as women, but we're a minority. And sometimes like these positions that we think are going to be something that's going to be easy and a good fit. For example, VA work studies. A lot of people, you know, they go right into those VA work study jobs. And, you know, from my experience, it's great. It's amazing. You go to school and you're able to be in your veteran resource center, and you're able to sit there and do your homework and help other veterans. However, as a female veteran, I had a really hard time fitting in with my school's veteran environment, and was quickly pushed out. Not just, you know, hey, maybe we can't find a place for you on campus that could work with your specific quirks, if you will, because we see that you have some pieces that we don't have. No, there wasn't a search for, hey, we're going to make sure that this veteran who has these things in their life going on that are different if you're a woman, that are different if you're a person of color, that are different if you're a person who identifies differently than, you know, cisgender and, you know, straight. And so like, that was something for me. Income, I did my research. I'm a researcher. I look up everything. It drives my partner crazy, like absolutely crazy. But I did my research and I was like, I'm going to do VA work study and I'm going to do 4 years of college and I'm going to be fine. It's going to be fabulous. And a year into my VA work study, like I said, I was sort of in this position, by no means completely of the other party. You know, it takes 2 to tango. And I've been going and taking care of that part. But my point is, you know, sometimes the income part, you know, some of our allies that are there for veterans are not necessarily there for women veterans. And so what I presented in these pictures here is something I'm super proud of, because this picture with, it says Stars and Stripes on the top. This is actually a veteran-owned business. And I basically went off with 2 friends who also went to USM and started a nonprofit and just started raising money for student veterans like us who, person of color, gay, female, who started this nonprofit. We were like, we are looking for these resources ourselves because we want to be successful. And we want to make sure in the state of Maine that other individuals like us can go somewhere and be like, what are these resources when they maybe don't fit in with their school? And that's not to say that like schools or universities are an issue. You know, people are people everywhere, and it's the people that need to take up and change the environment and change the institution. But yeah, so this is Shelly Pingree at a veteran-owned business. She's a congresswoman in Maine for the 1st District. And we were able to sit down as veterans of all over Maine of all different backgrounds and talk to her because we set up this organization and she wanted to know what was going on. And so that was a really great opportunity. And then another job that I had based off of the fact that I had to seek out job opportunities, again, like I understand, like, of course you're an adult, you're going to look out for a job once you get out of the Marine Corps. But again, some of these veteran organizations, you think they're there and they're not. And so yeah, in this picture, this is at USM with the yellow room and the big group there. This is at the University of Southern Maine, where I had the opportunity to have a part-time job working for this organization called Maine People's Alliance. And I was able to lobby for social justice issues. And it was just a really incredible opportunity. And without having been excluded from my groups, I believe I would have never sought out work like this because I was a single mom and a student, and I wasn't willing to give it up. I was like, I'm finishing school. I'm going to have a new career. Like, that's it. And because I did these two jobs, I realized that I, at the time, which I'll get into, had a different idea of what I was going to do with my life. And because I went and I started, you know, anyone can go and lobby and do nonprofit work. I realized that I'm an advocate, like I'm a true advocate at heart. And I was like, holy cow, like, thank you for excluding me, because now I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, I think with income, that was the thing for me. Like I was really focused on, okay, I need to get like a specific job that's veteran oriented, and that's going to help me. But that wasn't the answer for me as a student veteran. So the strategy that I did come up with was to seek out other opportunities within, you know, the schools, just, you know, within the school basically, because like I said, I wanted to stay nearby. And that was really helpful to me. But it was, again, it was an individual thing. Like I think that like we need to have these organizations available and resources available when there isn't a group for somebody. But I digress. We can move to the next slide. I see Delia laughing at me. This is good. It makes me feel less awkward as I'm talking to myself in my kitchen. Okay, so another thing that was a strategy for me was mental and physical health, and that really helped get me back on track as far as you know, being, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but being at Warrior Scholar Project at Texas A&M and being around all the veterans and having that like that family feeling that you have when you're in the barracks, I think that really brought me back on track. Going to school, I was like, okay, I kind of felt more competitive. I felt more sort of like, it's more fun again. I don't know. But that's the same thing with like these teams like RWB and other organizations that do physical fitness. It really is important to take that time out. And a lot of people say, what is it? Self-care. For me, it has to be in some way or shape or form physical fitness, because I don't have enough time throughout the day, I think, to sort of like let out this angst that I build up. And I suffer from chronic migraines. And as a student and a single mother, like you kind of need to like find a way. And for me, it's been physical fitness and music. And I think connecting with these groups too was important for me, because I had an opportunity to swap stories with other people who were going through the same thing. I was on a hike called the Husky Veterans Hike, and it's a memorial hike that they do every year in Maine. And a veteran, he was just next to me, and we were just going back and forth and sharing stories about like our experiences in the military and what it's like to be a woman. And what's funny is like we were the ones hiking in the front of our group from our school. And that was the case really like a lot of the times in my experience in the Marine Corps. You know, I think it's unfortunate that when sometimes there's a female, like the veteran idea is not there. But yeah, so another strategy for me to stay grounded, stay focused, and just make sure that I'm healthy is staying sure that I'm physically fit, and that I'm also like doing some talk therapy, whether that's with a counselor or whether that's with a friend. Because for me, there are things I don't know that I can ever tell a counselor. I always call my friend, and we can talk about anything until we're blue in the face. And that's really that's therapy for me sometimes. But yeah, so that's helped me really stay focused and stay, you know, stay on track. If I don't, I get very anxious and I get sort of, I don't know, I get back to that militant Mary and I hate it. I become sort of like, I was a platoon sergeant in the Marine Corps in my last 2 years. And so I was used to, hey, PFC, go now. You know, the Marine Corps is very like, do this. And so it's interesting that, like, you know, when you transition, that's not a topic that's talked. It's like, hey, when you transition, you'll need a job. And when you transition, you're going to need to update your resume. You're going to need to update your attitude too. Like, you're not going to be able to walk around and just, you know, like just snapping at people. And so I think that was important for me. And I'm not saying everyone's like that. It's my own thing. But yeah, mental health is important. And empowering other people in tying it back to the conversation. I think as women, we need to give each other some more space because we are, every single time I feel like I've been in a situation where there are women veterans, and I've walked in with the idea that every single woman in here is awesome. And whatever they say is because they burnt the breakfast this morning. And every experience when I've had that mentality has been wonderful. But when you walk in the room with any other kind of experience, any other kind of sort of attitude, I think that sometimes there's another like military sort of inkling to sort of start that competition. There's only enough room for one of us females, but like we could all succeed together in our own ways. And so I think empowering each other when women need someone to go to talk to about mental health issues or to talk about their experiences, because I think the more that we can talk about our similar experiences, the more inclusive we'll be with each other, because we'll realize that we're the same and we're the ones that really get each other. But yeah, so making sure I stay on my PT schedule is important. Next slide. And that was my timer. I'm sorry if I scared anyone. I'm going to wrap up. I'm going a little long, I see. All right. And my last strategy is actually a Marine Corps leadership principle, and it's know yourself and seek self-improvement. And this was really something silly about me. Whenever I'm feeling stuck, I do think that there's a lot that you learn in the military that's really great. And I think it's okay to go back to that for like advice or for structure. I think it's important to also be like a new person, of course, and have a balance of that. Don't fully be like that still like Mary military person, like I said, definitely have a balance. But yeah, so I take some things like this principle, and I'm always looking towards, okay, what's the next sort of thing that I can be doing to help my community or help myself be a better leader. If I'm being completely honest, there was a time where I put this picture here, Maine legislator, this picture, this is my first ever leadership seminar. It was called Maine Emerging New Leaders, and it was all from the universities of Maine. And I don't really feel like I was vulnerable. I don't really feel like I allowed myself to open up and get to know people and really understand like what it is that makes me tick as a leader. And I think without knowing what your mission is in life and without knowing what your core values are in life, you can't be an effective leader, in my opinion, because you're the blind leading the blind. And I found out that just like in the Marine Corps, when you go to corporal's course when you're a corporal and sergeant's course when you're a sergeant, it is really important to continue a professional education and go to these fellowships. And unlike the Marine Corps where they say, wait for someone to sign you up, like you've got to seek them out and you got to sign up for everything. And when you do those things, and those things, I'm just kind of keep it short in case like people have like specific questions, I'll be more detailed, but fellowships, internships, institutes of learning, just apply for things, and you'd be surprised a lot of times imposter syndrome is taking over, and we really need to sometimes just empower ourselves and tell ourselves that like we are enough, and we're gonna go and get that, and I don't know, good vibes. And then this other picture here is another professional development program. It's called Student Veterans of America, and I actually am fortunate enough to be a part of that cohort again this year. And I think, again, I just, I can't stress enough. I remember at the Leadership Institute in 2017, I wasn't at this one, but I think the CEO of like McDonald's or another like high ranking commercial business in the US was there. And they were saying how they have an advisor, they have a counselor, they have someone that they go to for advice. And it's like, if somebody who's running like all these like crazy companies and making millions and millions of dollars, and they're the ones like still being like, hey, do you think this is good? Do you think this font's great? Like, what do you think of this? Then like, I think as an undergraduate student at the University of Southern Maine, I need all of those advice, all of those resources and people to advise me. Absolutely. And yeah, I think just improving yourself every day. I try to be a better version of myself than I was yesterday, and nobody else, because this competition's just for us. But yeah, I really want to meet all of you awesome women. And if anyone wants to add me on LinkedIn or email me or do anything, like I really genuinely mean it when I say I want to help connect people to resources and be there. You know, if you have questions about anything, I do talk a lot and I'm long-winded, so just tell me if it's enough. But yeah, those are my 5 strategies.
You rock, Mary. Thank you so much for sharing. We are so fortunate that you jumped at this opportunity to tackle this with me and to share your story, really, because that's so comforting. And I mean, Mary and I were working together on thinking through this, and we realized we have so many parallels. It was hilarious. So I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you so much for sharing. So moving on in the essence of time. Hi, everyone. Again, thank you so much for being here with us. Hope you have had a lovely Monday so far. I'm Delia. I am a program manager full-time with the central staff at Warrior Scholar Project, and I'm also an alumni of their 2016 humanities program at Harvard University. As you can see here, I wanted to start with sharing a little bit about who I am. It's mostly to provide you with context of my story, basically, because as you heard Mary say, this is just very much me sharing my experience and the 5 main takeaways that have helped me balance work, family, and school. But again, they're based on me and my experience, and to be transparent, it's a work in progress. I'm constantly learning every day and trying to kind of stay focused to continue to balance in this new virtual world now, which is another challenge. And I think that could be another dialogue in its own. But as you can see here, I am very blessed and proud to wear a lot of titles. And I just want to say, because I'm very proud, that is an actual MRI of my brain. Isn't it beautiful? That's my favorite picture of me, by the way. But I am Latina. I was born in Venezuela to Colombian parents. And at the age of 6, I moved to New York City and I learned English. And 3 years later, I found myself moving back to Venezuela because my parents went through a divorce. And as a 9-year-old, I was very confused because all of a sudden I didn't fit in with my Venezuelan people because I was this quote unquote American, which I didn't really identify with being American, but that was tough as a 9-year-old. And then I lived in Venezuela until I was 14. And then from 14 to 15, I lived in Colombia. And then at the age of 15, I found myself back with my mom in New York City. Again, that was really challenging for me personally because at the age of 15 was the first time that I felt othered. I didn't know what being brown was. I didn't know what being Hispanic was. I'm living in Venezuela. No one really talks about, oh, you're Hispanic, because you just are, right? You're surrounded by people that are very much like you. And so at 15, that was a struggle. But I think the biggest struggle at 15 was relearning English which I am very blessed and fortunate that my brain didn't fail me and the language came right back to me. Today, like I said, I am a program manager at Warrior Scholar Project. I am also a first generation college graduate, and I'm a wife, and I'm a proud mom of a 6-year-old trilingual child who keeps me on my toes and might interrupt our recording, but don't mind her. But all this just to say that we all have to take a moment to acknowledge how important our story is, all facets of it, all good and bad. Mostly because we carry all of that with us constantly. And for me, I never really stopped or cared to think about it until I got to Columbia University, um, shortly after I got out of 10 years and 9 months of being in the Marine Corps. And those 10 years and 9 months of being in the Marine Corps were transformational for me personally, because it was my formative years, right? I joined shortly after high school. By the way, I guess I skipped a part of my story. So we came back to New York City when I was 15. I relearned English, and I did freshman year of high school in New York City. And then my mom realized, as a single mom raising a teenage daughter in New York City, she was not about that life. So we moved to Providence, Rhode Island, where I finished high school. And shortly after high school, I joined the Marine Corps, and that's how I ended up serving 10 years and 9 months. And fast forward to 2003, I finished my Marine Corps career, which I couldn't believe that I actually pulled the plug. But the reason why I pulled the plug, I think that this is something, again, that defined a lot of my growth as a transitional veteran. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was passed, and I was on recruiting duty. And so many kind of training had to happen because recruiters were the first kind of people out there to deal with the public when it came to Don't Ask, Don't Tell, right? We're out canvassing and actively recruiting people to join the Marine Corps. And all of a sudden, people can join while they're openly gay, lesbian, and part of the LGBTQ community. And that was for me kind of like huge, right? Because I had so many friends already in the military that had kind of come out to me, and I just felt so happy that they could finally be their full selves in the military, which to me it made perfect sense, because who am I or anyone to question someone's patriotism? But and then I realized a different side of the military that I didn't could I couldn't really grapple with it. And it was mostly that although I was a recruiter, I was, and we had very strict guidelines about how we were going to deal with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I was being asked to do things that were basically against my ethical belief. And so I decided, if it's no longer fun to wear the uniform, then you just kind of hang it up and allow for more space for others to kind of continue doing the good work. And so that's what I did. I decided to get out in 2013. And a few months after that, I found myself lost, dazed, and confused on campus at Columbia University. And that is when kind of my world came crumbling down, in a sense, mostly because for the first time in my adult life, I had really no family in New York City. I was away from my friends, which was my direct network. I had just gotten out of, being very comfortable in my environment and in my job as a gunnery sergeant of Marines. And then all of a sudden I'm at Columbia University, and it's clear that I don't fit in. I felt awkward. I mean, imposter syndrome, you name it. But most importantly, I was for the first time in my adult life, I was kind of inappropriate. It was not okay to behave the way I was used to behaving at Columbia University, a very kind of diverse campus in a very diverse city, where everyone is welcome and felt to be okay. I felt like I didn't fit in. And so that was a challenge. And that's when I discovered that I needed to do something about it, because otherwise I was not going to survive the next 3 years at Columbia University. And so that's how I kind of discovered, or I guess it was my first official research to figure out what is this vulnerability. And I did a lot of research, and I did a lot of digging, and it wasn't until years later that I actually discovered Brene Brown and her book. Why it's escaping me now, but it's about vulnerability, and it started with a TED talk, and it turned into more parts of the TED talk where she completely develops out all of that. But the important part that that kind of captivated me, and it's something that I still try really hard to practice today, is that um, it's really important to be vulnerable, because without that I would have not been able to survive. And I say this because when I realized how lost and how like awkward I was as a civilian at Columbia University, I was so ashamed. I was so ashamed of, like, I thought being a Marine Corps was not enough, because I heard all these people around me saying how they were so much more as far as like aware of this academic world that we were in. And I just really felt like I didn't fit in. But it wasn't until I allowed myself to be seen and shared my kind of faults, as far as like I didn't know a lot of things. I found myself surrounded with people that, as they would introduce themselves, and they would use pronouns, and I was like, what? Like, what is this? And until I started asking questions, people really opened up, took me under their wing, and said, oh, you don't know? How come you don't know? And then I shared, oh, I was in the military for 11 years. And they were like, oh, we have to catch you up. Read this book, check out this link, check out this TED talk. And all it took was for me to allow myself to be seen, not feel shame, not feel fear, and just, embrace that struggle of I am enough to figure this out and be present and kind of take it all in. But it's important because if you continue to kind of navigate your world feeling afraid or ashamed or feeling like an imposter when you're not, you won't allow yourself to be vulnerable, which is exactly the like she describes it, the birthplace of joy, creativity, belonging, and love. I have gone back to that same TED talk and to that same book multiple times. I mean, I still think it's a great refresher, but it's most important for me because it reminds me that I am worthy of not only investing in myself, but allowing others to learn from my story. It's okay to not have all the answers to the questions. But the beautiful thing about it, at least for me, is that I have been able to tap into my network, leverage my network, and ask all the questions. Now at WSP, we have Camilla, who is our I call her the queen of diversity and inclusion, because whenever we don't know anything, I'm like, Camilla, how do I stop saying this word? She just like is a resource that is unbelievable. And there's so much more out there, right? You just have to be able to not be afraid to ask questions. So vulnerability was definitely a top one for me. And then I discovered Eustress, which is basically kind of like that healthy, balanced amount of stress that we all feel. And that didn't come easy, right? Like everybody experiences eustress, and there's a big difference between eustress and distress. And the only way to figure out how you best function is knowing yourself, kind of checking in with yourself and understanding, am I stressed out or am I like getting close to burnout? And the only way to do that is to have multiple check-ins with yourself, learn your limits, and ask yourself questions, right? But you can't do any of that if you, again, don't allow yourself to feel the full range of emotions, right? Like I experienced burnout in grad school, and I had to come back to my boss at WSP and tell him, I can't do full-time school, parent my child while my husband is also in school, and we're in New York City, and I don't have a sitter, and I'm doing full-time school and full-time work, and it's just not, I'm not effective. Let's be real. And I, by the way, self-care, I was huge on promoting it, but didn't know what it was for myself. And so I had to kind of, again, check in with myself, understand that I was way past my limits, and have a conversation with my boss. And guess what? I was received with, you tell me what schedule works for you. We will make it happen so you can finish your master's, so you can take a day off to just do nothing. And it worked. And it was because I was vulnerable enough to share something that I was not proud of, right? I was not proud of being burned out, but I found myself surrounded by a very supportive network. And I think that was, I was able to do that because I knew the difference between um, my eustress and my high levels of distress, where I was not as effective and functional as I would like to be. My third one is self-efficacy, and this one is huge. As a gunnery sergeant of Marines, I don't need to tell veterans how kind of big-headed Marines are, right? We're always bragging. We are God's gift on earth, God, country, and core, and all that good stuff. Until you get real with yourself and you realize you no longer have that uniform. You have to figure out who Delia is, because nobody cares about your rank. And oh, by the way, it doesn't carry any weight at Columbia, right? And so at Columbia, I was not an academic and not the smartest person in the room. And that was totally fine, because I really believe that I can make it. I really believe that if I worked really hard, which I was used to it, right? That's the only thing I was used to, working really hard. I knew that as long as I set my mind to it, I was going to accomplish it. And the beautiful thing is that there's actually a quote unquote formula of how to increase your self-efficacy. And that is by experiencing success, which I already had experienced. I had almost 11 years of successful Marine Corps career, which was very successful. I was watching others succeed around me, right? Like after I experienced WSP, that transformational kind of 1 week experience completely changed the way that I came back to campus. You know, I was not the only veteran struggling with analytical reading. I was not the only veteran struggling with like, what resources do I need? But when I saw that they were all still equally motivated to pursue their academic goals, I was even more motivated to, continue tackling mine. Receiving specific encouragement, and that comes from building your tribe and building that kind of network that's going to support you through it. And I was again blessed that I became a WSP alumni, and till this day, I still talk to my very unique Harvard 2016 cohort, which are now doing amazing things, and we still stay connected. But it's always great to kind of bounce ideas with them. I had great conversations preparing for this with Mary, and learned so much from her story. Again, there is power in sharing your story. So that's another thing. And then again, learning to manage your negative emotions, which I think we can all relate that it's an everyday work. And having a 6-year-old that has a million questions and is learning a language that you don't know, that can take a different tone. But I feel like just allowing yourself to experience the full range of emotions is already a step in the right direction to increase your self-efficacy. And another great thing that I needed to kind of work on and still do in order to kind of be more present and aware and realistic about my journey as I transition was letting go of perfectionism, right? So in the Marine Corps, there was no room for mistakes, especially at the level that I was. Being a leader, nobody cares how you woke up that morning and how you're feeling. You just have to perform at the same level, and that is honestly not, one, healthy, and two, for me, not realistic. And so to let go of perfectionism, I focus on how am I feeling? And if I'm feeling a certain way, well, what can I do? And celebrating the small wins. Like, so maybe I didn't wear makeup, but you know what? I put a headband today and I feel like I look great and put together and I'm happy. And I'm excited and I'm smiling while I'm sharing this with all of you. And that for me is a small win. I made it on time to a meeting. I was able to take notes. I drank my tea instead of my sugar-filled coffee. I can't be perfect, but I do strive for excellence, and working hard towards that for me is a win. But there are ways to kind of prepare for that and be conscious of your environment in order to ensure that you're not being so hard on yourself. I was the first one to give all the advice to all of my friends that come to me. But then when it came to me and giving advice to myself, I was super hard on myself. And that actually, I learned, is not a way, it's not a real way to just exist, because you're actually not able to be empathic towards other until you are able to choose kindness for yourself first. And that's something that I'm still learning. But yes, letting go of perfectionism has definitely supported my way, the way that I am able to balance work life and family. And last but not least, that the small things matter. That how I wake up in the morning and what I say to myself when I first look in the mirror, that matters. That I say, no, thank you, I can't make it to that event, because I just don't want to get out of my pajamas, or because I'm so busy with work, school, and everything else that I just want to stay home with my family and I'm not able to make that girls' brunch. That's important, right? Learning when to say no. That's so powerful. Setting healthy boundaries for yourself, for your family, loving myself first. All those little things that people think that are cliche actually matter. Pretending that, oh, I'm an E7, and as soon as people find out, especially in the veteran community, which are apparently the only ones that care about your rank. I never heard anyone caring about your position at a previous job until I hung out with more veterans. But pretend, so people hear, oh, she got out as an E7, so wow, like wow, let's treat her differently. Not allowing people to focus on that. Those little things matter. People think like, oh, that's no big deal. Just go with it. It actually matters, because it made me feel uncomfortable, because I was struggling with no longer being that person and figuring out who Delia is and showing up in spaces as Delia and feeling comfortable in doing so. And people were stuck with whatever I did in the military. But to me, that was like, that's part of my story, but it is not who I am and it doesn't define me. And reminding myself of that every day, it might be little, but it matters. And so, yeah, just taking the time to kind of connect with yourself. And I keep saying this, having conversations with yourself and checking in, understanding that every little thing about you and your story matters, is what kind of keeps me able to balance work, family, and school. I'm not currently in school right now, but I start up again in January. I'm going to pursue a course at Teachers College that it's going to better prepare me to support veterans with college advising. And so I'll be back in school in January. And so I very much enjoyed my break from May to January. So yes, in a nutshell, I basically just want to say that that you matter, that however you are, it matters, and that however you're feeling and however you wake up every morning, it matters. So allow yourself to grow, to listen, to share, and to enjoy the full range of emotions, because it sure does matter. And that is it from me. If anybody has any questions, we encourage you to stay connected with Warrior Scholar Project, with our community. You can send any questions or any questions that maybe you don't want to ask on here to that email address. Mary and I are available via email, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. And we want to, of course, before we head out to questions, remind you that our next WVEDs is January 25th at 1 p.m. And we will be releasing our actual focus conversation topic later on. But we welcome questions. I'll stop sharing my screen so y'all can see me that I'm actually here.
Can
you actually go back to the contact?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Oh yeah, good idea. Good idea, Mariah. Thank you both so very much. I feel like this is exactly the kind of conversation we all need to be having. I think all of it, I appreciate your vulnerability and your ability to kind of say, hey, this is what's worked for me and this is what happened.